What's going on, everyone? Oh no, the markets are crashing. For a younger investor or an investor who has plenty of time in the market, fortunately, you really don't have to worry too much about these dips in the market. Ultimately, in the long run, the market always goes up. In between now and the next 10, 15 years, you're going to have a lot of periods where the market goes up and down. But I can assure you there's a good likelihood that from today to 20 years from now, the market will be significantly higher than it is right now. So ultimately, if you are investing for the long term, do not pay too much attention to what the market is doing. Does that mean that you are not going to necessarily feel a certain kind of way when you see the markets going down? Not necessarily. I can totally understand people being a little hesitant, especially those people who don't have as much knowledge of the market and people who are first-time investors. I will say this, it's imperative that you put as much money in the market as soon as you can. Don't try to time the market because we don't know where the dip is. We don't know how low it can go. We don't know how high it's gonna go. So ultimately, you wanna be able to invest whatever extra money you have available to invest and really just set it and forget it. That's my strategy. I did a net worth update video at the beginning of the year. And obviously, if we were to look from the beginning of the year to now, my net worth is probably down $40, $50, $60,000. I don't know. I'm just going by what I've seen in the market. I don't pay too much attention to it every day. But anytime you invest, there's something called a risk tolerance questionnaire that you're gonna do. And if your risk tolerance level is, not high at all, if you're one of those people who's gonna panic every time the market dips, then you either need to not invest or you need to invest in a lot safer vehicles. If you're investing like me for the long haul in, the high risk stocks like VTSAX, high risk index funds like VTSAX, which is comprised of over 4,000 stocks, then of course you don't want to invest in that if you are risk averse, right? So if you are intolerant of risky investments and you're one of those kind of people who's going to panic sell, then do not invest in VTSAX or don't invest in stocks or anything. But if you're one of those people who are going to ride the wave and just set it and forget it, cool, go ahead and invest as much money as you possibly can, as often as you can. I will say this, I've seen studies that have been done, and if I'm not mistaken, Fidelity was one of them, that shows that debt investors actually perform better than living investors. And the reason is that their money just sits there. They just hold it. They don't do anything with it. They don't have the opportunity to panic like we do. I'm old enough to remember back at the beginning of the pandemic when the market dipped so low and people's value of their investments went down 30, 40, maybe even 50% at the time. That was March of 2020. I'm old enough to remember that. And I told people, do not sell your stuff. If you have the opportunity and the ability, buy more, but do not sell it. And sure enough, I know people who sold and they locked in their losses. Nobody has lost a dime right now. The only time you will lose is if you sell whatever you have in there. You will then lock in your losses. So the advice that I give my friends, if they ask me for advice, which is probably worth what they pay for it, but my advice is just to continue to buy as much as you can. Don't try to wait till it gets to a certain point. Just buy it if you can, because ultimately I believe that 10, 15, 20 years from now, whatever you buy it in at now, it's going to be higher than that in the long run. So don't panic. Do the best you can. Get in, get as much